For this lesson, what we're going to do is use not only our computer, the internet resources, and our video projectors, but we're also going to use a smart board which will make the interactiveness of the online game or activity a little bit more hands-on for our students. So obviously we need those various resources to complete that. Once we get all the components completed, put together, what we'll do is we'll go to the website, which is frogguts.com. And as you can see, this website, um, you do need to subscribe to get the full effect of what they offer. Um, but for our purposes, for what we're going to do in this lesson, we can just go through and use the demonstration version of the frog dissection. So once we get all of our components together, we have one of the students go to the smart board, um, type in the website that we have, and then once we get there, we're actually going to go to the demo mode of the website that we have. And it tells you a little bit about what Frog Guts is. It talks initial observations we're going to make and where we're going to go from there. So if we start, now as you can see, as you get into the demonstration, there's background music. There is a voiceover that explains what is going on, but as you can see, you can turn off the background music itself, and you can also turn the speech so that you can discuss with the students what you're looking at, what you're doing. Now, if you choose to leave the speech on, you can turn off the text bar that is located at the bottom, but I chose to just turn off the speech. Makes things a little bit easier so that we can have more of a class discussion about what we're doing, looking at. So it opens with showing you the basic bullfrog, talks about the phylum, the class, which is a little bit more than what we really need to go into for our anatomy review of the body systems. But it gives the kids a little bit more background as to what the scientific information is for the bullfrogs. You can also fast forward through some of the things it talks about to be cold-blooded, so on and so forth. Um, if I were actually doing a lesson, I would talk to the kids about these various things and kind of stop and talk in detail about the specifics. But we're going to kind of speed ahead and look at what we need to for the anatomy purposes here. Once you get into the close um, part of dissection, there's a 3D button. And that button actually helps you to zoom a little bit closer. It helps you can turn the frog. You can look at different characteristics of frog. It talks about the surfaces of the skin, which will lead us into a discussion of the integumentary system. We can talk about the purposes of what our integumentary system does, how it functions, the parts of it, and then we can give a little comparison of how that compares to that of the frogs and what the purpose is for them. Obviously, the differences between frogs and humans is pretty drastic, but it gives them an idea of how different parts of different animals function with different components. We'll then move forward and it will ask us to find various external parts on the frog, and it gives you some basic background as to what those are for. It talks about the eyes, what the purpose of the eyes is, the different parts of the eyes, which will lead us into human eyes, what they're for, part of the nervous system. We can talk about the brain, the nerves, things of that nature in this section. We can then move forward. It talks about the tympanum. It asks students to locate this. And as we're going, we'll have different students, go to the smart board, touch the smart board, various components, and actually not physically touching the frog, but finding those parts without actually having to physically touch the frog, so on and so forth. It also talks about the frog's muscular movements, the jumping, um, which will then obviously give us the chance to discuss the muscular system, various major muscle groups, where they're located, how muscles work, the physiology behind it, how the nerves innervate the muscles, which cause this to happen, so on and so forth. It then talks about how we can help to determine the gender of the bullfrogs. This will obviously give us a chance to determine the various parts of the reproductive system of the human, which is typically a very short conversation since we have students taking health classes. We don't need to go into a lot of detail as far as that system is concerned. And as we continue to go through, finally, they proceed into turning the frog over so we can look at the underside of what our bullfrog will look like. Once again, they're going to ask us to do certain things so that we can see the frog. And this is basically where our dissection is going to begin. Once again, we will continue having students move to the board and completing the various tasks of the dissection. So the first thing, as the dissection is concerned, we have to actually pin the frog down, which if you were doing an actual dissection in the classroom with the frogs, that is the first thing you would have to do is pin the frog down. Then as we go, it asks us to locate various parts of the external body still of the frog. So we're going to find the abdomen, and this is where our first cut will actually begin. So we'll have the students find the scalpel on the toolbar, and they will begin and make their first virtual incision on the frog. And as you can see, it always shows them specifically where they need to make those incisions and how those incisions need to be done. And they go from left to right. And sometimes it's using the tools. Sometimes they don't always cooperate as well as we would like. So let's get this frog cut open here. So we'll do incision, and we will do the incision across the lower abdomen. Sometimes it doesn't pick up as fast as you would like, but obviously this is still one of those things the students would actually be physically touching our smartboard, causing these incisions. And then once again, we pin the flaps down to expose the muscle, the abdominal muscle of the frog, which we begin to discuss the specific abdominal muscles within the individual humans. We pull the muscles back to expose the internal organs. The actual website will tell you to find things. It is now wanting us to find the thorax so that we can continue to open up a little bit further so that we can see what is going on. And these are showing exactly the same tools that the students would be using if they were completing the dissection in the classroom. So we're going to open up his thorax, pin those flaps back, and then we'll begin to start looking at the various organs in the body. And they even give us the option to blow things up a little bit, bring it a little bit closer. And one thing I forgot to mention is you can make it a full screen, which would make it a little easier for the kids to see. So as you can see at the bottom, we're going to start identifying various organs within the frog. So the first thing it asks you to find is the heart. So you have student, obviously, go find the heart. And then we would proceed to talk about the circulatory system, what its importance is. Obviously, that's going to be the main component of the circulatory system, but also we have the blood vessels, and the various things that go on with the blood vessels and conditions that can occur because of certain circumstances. Now, if you had the full subscription to this website, you could go on and it gives you an entire lesson based on the circulatory system. But because we're using this for review purposes, there's no need for us to teach about that right now. And then the next organ it asks you to look at is the liver. So we find the liver, so on and so forth. And as it goes through, it talks about the different organs and it asks you to find various things. And you can still turn the frog upside down however you want him to be. but it will go through and it will ask you to find all the major organs, which we will discuss what all of them are, the purpose of them, and how they intermix into the individual body systems as well as how all the body systems work together. Um, just real quick, and you can still skip forward into the rest of the body systems. And then it tells you you can go forward, proceed to a quiz, but because we do not have the full subscription, the quiz is not available to us online, which I would then in turn give students some type of review quiz, obviously prior to giving them the final test for this unit. So this has been pretty interesting, I think, lesson for the students as far as what they're going to look at, what they're going to see, how they're going to get to it. And I think this is a little bit more effective than actually completing the frog dissection in class, because a lot of kids are not going to be able to bring themselves to actually touch a frog, let alone cut one open. So I think this is a much more effective way to kind of go through, to review, and let the kids see what is really happening and what is going on as far as the body systems.